You ever wanted to be a space pirate? Someone who's going around and looting different enemy ships? If that's the case, let's get into the black. Hey everybody, thanks for coming back to the Dice Odyssey. I'm Kaz, and today we're going to be bringing up Into the Black Boarding Party. And that basically was the description. You are a space pirate, you're boarding different enemy vessels, and you're trying to loot and plunder whatever you can and make it out alive before you're captured. Now, there is an uneasy alliance between you and your crew, and at the same time, some of them have their own agendas, which may include a traitor. So be on the lookout for that. What we're going to do is just give you a general brief overview of how the game plays. I'm not going to hit every single little rule. Just want to give you the spirit of the game. And then I'm going to get back to my final thoughts. And Into the Black, you've got a bevy of different characters that you can choose from, each with their own special ability and style of play. For example, you've got this bounty hunter. You got a passive ability of Deadeye, which allows more damage once per roll. You also have a special ability which allows you to even re-roll dice per combat phase, or one extra movement. You've got the Turncoat. They've got a passive ability of backpedaling. They may immediately flee 2 spaces after taking any damage. Then there are extra special abilities there as well. You've got the Sailing Master, Mona T. June. Her passive ability is Lightning Reflexes. Always has the initiative during the attack phase regardless of conditions. Her special ability also includes a reroll once per round of any search action, including other players. And so on and so forth. Now, if you look at the player boards, you've got different kinds of symbols representing different kinds of attributes. For example, you've got this gunner here who has an initiative of 4. Initiative is going to determine different things like who gets to go first and who gets to fire first during combat, things of that nature. He's got 4 health and now 2 movement. This is the search action, which requires these colored dice. This is the attack value, dice according to that as well, and this is also the reputation marker. The reputation is important because there's a number of different ways that you can actually gain it in the game. It can be gained by defeating enemies, removing an event from play, drawing a card that increases it, so on and so forth. Now you can spend reputation to do several different things like re-rolling a die, keeping a second loot card on successful search action, redrawing all your loot cards, retreating from combat with no penalties. Now at the beginning of the game, you're going to load out your characters with different kinds of weapons and tech from loot cards. There are different types of loot cards. There can be gear and valuables. Some of the gear could be a scatter blaster, explosive charge, an invisible cloak, allows you to pass by enemies without having to fight them. Explosive munitions, you can actually use this as a weapon upgrade on any of your other weapons. Scatter shotgun, deals damage to all the enemies standing in a specific area. Mag boots, stun grenade, self-explanatory. You have body armor, helps decrease damage. On the valuable side, you could have something like an oxygen tank. You have a titanium bar, floor plans, trinkets and baubles, food rations, gemstones, and fuel canisters. You'll also be trying to complete a primary mission card. One example might be taking the bridge. Basically, you discover the bridge and defeat the bridge crew, and there's also difficulty modifiers for some cards. In general, as an overall objective, this must be completed to win. You also receive personal goals. There are some traitor cards in the game, which allows that player to basically have their own personal goal. With the standard personal goal cards, you must complete them as well as the primary objective, typically to win. As you explore the ship, you will place corridor tiles to build the ship out. Sometimes you'll be placing rooms. Now the rooms with locks on them will have soldiers come out of a bag. Now there is a morale track for your crew. You can lose morale through different means, like characters being removed from the game, player retreating from combat, things of that nature. You can also boost morale, like a player defeats a group of enemies. As you lower the morale, you'll start to lose some benefits on your crew, but as you raise it, you'll get extra benefits like extra movement and extra damage dealt during combat. There's also an apprehension track which basically counts out your rounds, and it's how much time you have before you get apprehended and can lose the game. The game takes place over 4 phases. First phase, you're going to choose and resolve all your player actions and events. Now each player is going to have up to 2 actions they can take per turn, and in this case you'll move, search, equip, trade, discard, or utilize items. As you explore the ship, you'll go ahead and flip over these rooms to discover what's in them. Now, once you've entered a room, it will tell you whether or not you activate an event card, also what kind of goods you may be able to search for. Now, once you enter in, you have to draw an event card and resolve it. Some rooms will also have text on them that you may have to deal with as well. Some events you might be dealing with are blast doors. For example, an emergency blast door violently slams shut behind you with a thunderous clang. Enemy defenders. You've encountered an enemy crew member, and now you have to fight them. Artificial gravity failure. Uh-oh. Guess what? You're floating. Maybe a decompression. An explosive whoosh is heard just as you get sucked into the room. If a room has either the gear symbol or the valuable symbol, it will allow you to search for those items out of those decks. Now, if you run into an enemy defender, you have to stop, and combat will ensue in Phase 3. Now, Phase 2 will be expansion and maintenance. This is where you'll place new corridor and room tiles. You'll also have wandering defenders. You'll basically roll dice, and then it shows you exactly how those enemies will move. Increase your apprehension track by 1. Now, in Phase 3, there's combat resolution, and you'll take a look at initiative, determine who's going to fire first, between you and security officers and other players. You'll take a look at all of your tech and weaponry, and you'll use the combat dice associated with it. You'll add together all the damage, and you'll resolve combat. Now, if you hit the enemy hard enough, some of them will retreat. And you could also take a retreat action if need be. That's possible you could die in combat, but if you do, you're still able to gain a new character at the end of the round. Now, if the traitor kills you, you're eliminated from the game. When you kill security officers, you add them to your player board and you can use them to gain more reputation and other things later. In Phase 4, you basically check the win-loss conditions. Players have won if they beat the primary mission, but they must also complete their personal goals to win as well. Players can also lose the game if the apprehension track has reached 24, the morale track has reached 0, or the traitor has completed and revealed their personal goal on their turn, or no additional player boards are available to replace a defeated player's character. And that's a brief general overview of how to play Into the Black. Now let's get back to my final thoughts. So, did I like it? Yeah, I say that with a little hesitation. I'll be honest, this is going to be a bit mixed. First thing I'm going to do is go into my pros and then go into my cons and then give you my final rating. First, let's get into the pros. The theme is absolutely great. I absolutely love space themes anyway. I'm naturally going to be drawn to them, okay? So before I even decided to play this game, I was already going, okay, this is going to get a point for theme if they can nail it. I feel like they nailed it in many respects. I love the characters in this game. I like the idea that every single character in the game is completely different from another. I didn't see any two that were very similar, at least not in our plays, right? And also I like the idea that on the team, everybody has their specialities, so you're kind of sitting there going, okay, you know, you're working together as a team, you're sitting there going, okay, you're good at searching. You have great dice rolls for searching. So you need to go in that room and you handle that. And I tell you what I'll do, because I'm great at combat, I'll watch the hall and I'll make sure that I take out any security officers that are coming. I'll go forward and try to deal with any that might be up ahead. I love the tile building in the game. I like the idea that we're building out the game as we go. And so you're not 100% certain what's around every corner. Are you going to build out a corridor? Uh-oh, are you going to have some rooms attached? Oh no, they're security locked rooms. That means more security guards are going to come out. What's going to happen? Oh, what's in this room? Is it the bridge? Is it a command center? Is it a holodeck? Which, by the way, some of the jokes in the game about some of the rooms are hilarious, like the holodeck, where it's like, this is probably pretty fun, but you know, but you don't know how to use it, so too bad for you, bummer, you know. And it's just like little poking fun things at you as you go that bring you more into that deep space humor, you know, that you see on some of these sci-fi shows. You're not certain what's going to be in each room. Like the minute you go in there, you're going to have an event 9 times out of 10. And some of those events can be good for you, but a lot of them can really suck. For example, we had one where we had somebody walk into a room and all of a sudden, which one was it? The artificial gravity failed, okay? And it was funny because I started out the game with mag boots, but my friend didn't, so some really bad things happened to them. They floating around the room, you know. It's cool how you can, and this ties back to the character even, how you can load out your characters with different kinds of abilities and weapons and things. And you also have to be really careful because you have to hurry up, and because as time goes on, you're kind of on a timer, right? Because you could be apprehended if the timer goes too high. You're going to get in trouble. And so, and also the fact that more security guards continue coming out as time goes on. And at the same time, I like the idea that they're also wandering the halls at times. You're rolling a die, sure, to determine it, but I like the idea that they could possibly enter the room with you. They're searching rooms, you know? So you get that cloak and dagger feel of the game, and it really comes through. It really comes through. Also, the idea that they had the missions, you know, you had objectives you had to complete. And I'll be honest with you, this game, and I could be wrong, but it seems like the designer played a lot of Dead of Winter before he designed this game, you know, because you got your standard personal goal that everybody's got to hit. Then each person has their own personal agenda goals that nobody else knows what they are, the secrets, and there could possibly be a traitor in the game. And so to that element, it was cool. I don't mind a semi-cooperative game. Dead of Winter does it for me. And so on that end, to a certain extent, this did it for me as well. I enjoyed it tremendously. And I also like the idea that you can mitigate the dice rolls. There's a lot of ways that you can mitigate dice rolls with, you know, different kinds of loot and tech and equipment and so on and so forth. I also feel the player count's pretty well balanced. I mean, from 1 to 4, I even tried this single player and it was decent. I prefer it at higher player count, I'll just be honest with you. But now I have to get into the cons. Some of it is subjective, but I feel like a little bit of it is also objective as well. When it comes to production quality, in general, the game is really good. You know, could it have been better in some regards? Yes. For example, one thing is the artwork on some of the player boards. They just looked like they were done by several different artists. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't great either. It wasn't anything like memorable for us. So when it came to the personal goals, I think in general they worked, but even in Dead of Winter, I had problems with some personal goals because I feel like they kind of accelerate the game too quick, or, you know, things like that. I feel like some of the traitor cards, I could have just been like fine with no traitor in the game. I'll be honest with you. Like, there were some traitor cards that were pretty decent. Like, for example, one of them, and I'm not gonna say the name of it, it allows you to turn around and start firing on your compadres once y'all found the bridge, right? The thing is, there's not any real great way to determine who the traitor is in this game. And that was something that really bothered me. Because there's another one, for example, that's basically like, hey, you collect 2 fuel canisters and 1 food ration, enter the escape pod room alone with 0 damage, and, you know, basically perform a search roll and place card to win the game. That could bring the game to a screeching halt and end it quickly. You know, I mean, yes, you are dependent upon the draw deck, but I really felt like some of these traitor cards are they're just not a big deal. You don't really need them in the game. Okay, another thing. This rule book. Now, to the designer's credit, he did send me some updated errata, and I think just an updated rule book in general to, you know, maybe clean up some rule book issues he's been hearing about or dealing with. It was, some of the aspects of the game were very well laid out. You know, you handle the phases well. It's actually a very simple game to get into. It really is. My problem is all the extra little minutia around it, all the little extra rules that are kind of thrown in for events and stuff like that. I felt like there just needed to be more fact pages. I don't know how to explain it. There's a clarifications page in here. There were a lot of little extras in there that I felt like needed to have more errata. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. One of the biggest sins a board game company can do for me to ding a game is to not include enough player aids, okay? Now, with a game like this that has as much symbolism as it has, okay? This has got a lot of symbolism in the game, a lot of symbols to deal with. You need more than 1 player aid, okay? You need more than 1. When you only give me 1, and we got several people at the table having to pass the rule book around, pass this around, somebody said make a copy of it. I'm like, I shouldn't have to make a copy of it. This should have been included in the game. Multiples of these. It's ridiculous to not have multiples of these in a game that has this many symbols. It just is. And yeah, I hate that. That drives me crazy almost more than anything else in any games, is when you don't have enough of these. Now that may seem like a small thing to you, But when people are sitting around the table and you're having to constantly pass this thing around, oh, I have a question, let me pass it back, and it's constant. Oh, let me get the rule book out and turn it to the back page or whatever page it was to find that other chart for symbols. That drives me up the wall, and it drove everybody up the wall, okay? This needs to change. And this is not the only game that does it. I don't want to pick on this game. There are several games that do it. And Batman is one of the worst offenders. I hated the Batman rulebook. I hated the fact that you didn't have proper player age for each character. I'm not that mad at this game. I'm just mad about this particular issue, okay? Batman made me so angry that it broke everybody else's game for me that does this when they do not include extra player aids, okay? And I'm sorry, I know that's a rant, but that's got to stop. Publishers and designers, get more player aids in your game, please. Oh my goodness, I should not have to print these out. It's not my job, okay? That's your job. With all of that said, where do I sit on a final rating? And I'm telling you, I am so torn on this because I feel like this has the makings of an amazing game. I really do. And I'm hesitant, right? But when I sit down with it, I am having a freaking ball. I love this game in that regard, okay? But it's that getting over the hump to actually getting to sit down with it that's the problem because of all the little extra issues I have with it. So I want to tell you this. If you like this type of game and you actually give it a chance, you may very well love it, okay? Especially if there's an awesome group dynamic going on. But because of all the issues I had with it, my rating, if I didn't have those kinds of issues, it would be like an 8, almost a 9. I'm not kidding. That's how much fun we had with it. But because of what I'm dealing with on this, I've got to give this about a 6 out of 10. It is an awesome game to sit down with. But the issues you might run into to get there caused me a little bit of pause, you know what I mean? And I hate giving negative or mixed reviews of any kind, especially if it's a game I really do like. And I really do like this game. Every single person at my table loved this game, but nearly every person at my table that played it also were talking about the problems we had with it, okay? So it's not just me saying this. I would ask people what they thought, and they're bringing up some of the same problems I had. Would I recommend it? I would recommend you give it a chance. I would recommend you at least try and sit down with it and try it out. Thank you so much for watching Dice Odyssey. How about you? Have you played this game yet? Have you played any games like it? What were your thoughts? You have a blessed day, and game away. This video is brought to you by Fallen Dominion Studios. Check out their website at fallendominionstudios.com.